With Capcom achieving near perfection with Street Fighter II Turbo on the Super Nintendo, could they really further improve upon the formula already laid down? Super Street Fighter II in many ways does improve upon the formula, but in some ways it falls a little bit short. Let's take a look at Super Street Fighter II for the Super Nintendo.
Super Street Fighter II is the final version of Street Fighter II on the Super Nintendo, and Capcom pulled out all the stops for this version, including this gorgeous looking intro featuring Ryu that is possibly one of the most iconic in gaming history. Several changes are in this version of Street Fighter II compared to Turbo, with the first being new characters added. 4 new characters were added to the roster: T-Hawk, Cammy, Fei Long, and DJ, which brought the roster to 16 characters, which at the time was a pretty impressive number for a fighting game. Another major change in the game was the speed. Where Street Fighter II Turbo's main attraction was the increase in gameplay speed, Super Street Fighter II scales it back for a more deliberate pace. This could be off-putting to some players as a readjustment is needed, but it really just boils down to personal preference as they both have their advantages. Characters and stages were tweaked graphically as well, as was the music. Personally, I prefer the graphics in Super Street Fighter II, as the color palette seems richer and more defined when compared to the previous entries in the series. The game also features a combo counter, which shows you how many hits in succession you have pulled off, which has now become a standard in fighting games. Rounding out the new features are more tweaks and balances to the characters in game, along with a few new moves as well. Super Street Fighter II might lack the speed that Turbo brought to the table, but the enhanced visuals, audio, and gameplay tweaks make it another must-own in the Street Fighter on Super Nintendo library. It all really boils down to personal preference as to which is the better version between this and Turbo, but in this day and age, it's easy just to pick up both and experience and enjoy what each game offers.
Super Street Fighter II for the Super Nintendo is a fantastic game. Although the lack of speed is a bit disheartening, especially when compared to how well Capcom did it with Street Fighter II Turbo, the added characters more than make up for that in my opinion. Sure, it might not be as good as Street Fighter II Turbo, but it's still a fantastic and solid addition to the Street Fighter II library on the Super Nintendo. Now, where could they go from here? They've pretty much maxed out everything you could do on the Super Nintendo when it comes to Street Fighter, right? Well, there's still one more thing to try, so tune in next time on Street Fighter Week here on Retro Gaming Tube 85 to see what Capcom's big bang was when it came to the Super Nintendo and Street Fighter.